On Sunday night, a D.C. citizen by the name of Sean Dunn was apparently none too pleased to see Customs and Border agents patrolling the nation's capital. So the knucklehead, after yelling a few unpleasantries and telling the patrol he didn't want a federal occupation in his backyard, he lobbed a Subway sandwich at an officer by the name of Greg Lairmore. Needless to say, this didn't go over very well, and Mr. Dunn was unsurprisingly cuffed and stuffed. But what followed, punctuated by the newly appointed D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro's gleeful recorded message, is both pathetically on brand and tragically ironic.
An individual went up to one of the federal law enforcement officers and started jumping up and down, screaming at him, berating him, yelling at him. And then he took a Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt. So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else.
The idea that this administration, particularly this president, has the audacity to spout the phrase "back the blue" in, of all cities, Washington, D.C., is just too much to take. Daily, they either abuse or ignore the law, ignoring both statute and even court rulings. But for a Trump acolyte to say with a straight face that abuse of law enforcement officers will not stand just miles from our Capitol building is an offense to decency. Where was Ms. Pirro's outrage when Trump pointed his assembled mob at our seat of democracy on January 6th? Where was her outrage as thousands carrying Trump flags and MAGA merch assaulted our law enforcement with steel pipes instead of a sandwich? Where was her outrage as her boss kicked his heels up for hours despite pleas from lawmakers, advisors, and even his own family to intervene, as hundreds of those officers were beaten and hospitalized, with some eventually even losing their lives? Where was her outrage when those same insurrectionists who were imprisoned for their sedition and brutality against the Blue were granted blanket pardons, including in the group pedophiles, domestic abusers, and drug traffickers? Don't get me wrong. No officer should have to endure abuse, including a tossed ham and cheese. But for Ms. Pirro and friends to flout the law, defend the indefensible, side with traitors over patriots, and then feign outrage and make this guy an example is not just transparently phony, it's downright offensive.